Hello and welcome to It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Joining me today is Pedro Antunes, who is Chief Economist of the Conference Board of Canada. Thanks for joining us today, Pedro.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, you put out the Index of Consumer Confidence, and it showed the biggest monthly drop since April right now in Canada. Tell me some of the, I guess, the reasons for that. Why are we seeing consumer confidence so low in the country right now?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're still very much in the midst of a crisis. And just to put a little bit of perspective on it, I mean, we did see, for example, when the closures happened in March and April due to the coronavirus, consumer confidence plummet at that time. Since then, it's recovered a little bit. I think the support programs that have been put in place by federal and provincial governments, but mostly the CERB at the federal level, have really supported incomes, and that helped consumer confidence recover. It also helped consumer spending recover through the summer months. And I think what we're seeing since then has been a flat line on consumer confidence on that recovery, and in fact, a decline in the last few months. And it's telling us a lot about how households or consumers are feeling about the state of the recovery henceforth. They're concerned, I think, about the fact that we've seen the number of COVID-19 cases really pick up in a lot of parts of the country. They're concerned about a lot of the employment in some of the well, let's call them those industries that require people to get together. So food and restaurant services, but arts, entertainment, sporting events, these things, and that's showing up in the consumer confidence numbers.
So when you look at, going forward, and those numbers from the virus are spiking in Alberta, they're spiking in Ontario, Quebec, concerns about a second wave, argument whether or not we are in the second wave already. What impact will that have on future consumer confidence?
Well, yeah. So essentially, I think what we're trying to do with consumer confidence is essentially a survey of about 3,000 households in Canada. So it's a wide-spanning survey, and we're trying to get a sense of the intangible. We know what's happening with employment, with income. What we're trying to get is a sense of how households feel, and that gives us a leading indicator as to how they're going to consume in the future. And I think what they're telling us is they're concerned about essentially some of the programs, the support programs changing. We know now that we're not going to see the end of the CERB, but rather a transition into EI and perhaps other programs. And I think households are essentially concerned about their future employment, their future financial situation, and they're telling us they're going to probably spend a little less going forward. And I think this is, as a leading indicator, if households do start spending less, this will have ramifications on the economy as well. So it's kind of this vicious cycle that we're worried about, where we're spending less. That means that a lot of businesses and small businesses across Canada aren't going to employ as much, and that obviously will translate into weaker employment, weaker income. So a bit of a vicious cycle. I think it is going to be a rough patch for a lot of industries in this country over the next number of months.
So what impact, you touched on it a little bit there on the, when consumer confidence is low, obviously, the first thing that they do is they hold on to their money, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that has a huge effect through everything, whether it's housing market, whether it's buying a vehicle, you name it, right?
Yeah, we do ask specifically about purchasing big ticket items, and I know that we have seen the real estate market hold up quite well for a number of reasons. But what this is telling us is, yeah, big ticket items and spending in general, I think, is going to be a little slower and perhaps even declining in some segments. I think forcibly households really did save in fact, a record amount this year. Just to put things again in perspective, in all my history of looking at recessions, this is the first recession I've seen. When you look at household incomes overall, that is, including taxes and transfers, it's actually going to grow remarkably strongly this year. So incomes are in good shape. People haven't spent in part because they couldn't or they wouldn't spend. We know certainly through the earlier months this year that was the case. And that has left households with a lot of savings. And the question now is, when will they unleash some of the savings? And I think we're going to see a period where households are going to be a lot more tentative than they were in the months leading up to the summer.
Okay, and last question for you, Pedro, is what's going to turn this around?
Oh, well, I think that for the economy to get fully back to normal, for consumer confidence to get fully back to normal, we're going to have to be in a situation where COVID-19 and the health risks associated with that are fully behind us. We don't, we're not experts in the immunology side or the vaccine development side. We're reading as much as we can and gathering the information, but we don't see that, essentially the economy returning to normal until sometime mid next year. We're hopeful that a vaccine will be put in place, but I think it will take time, even if that's the case, to distribute it. So obviously a lot of uncertainty around when that will happen, but I think we need to have this health threat behind us before things fully get back to normal.
Okay, super. Well, thanks very much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for your interest.
Okay, that was Pedro Antunes, who is Chief Economist with the Conference Board of Canada. This has been It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Thanks for joining us today.